Welcome back. You made it to today's episode. Get ready for bone-chilling tales that will keep you up at night. Science knowledge says the Earth is made up to 70% water. Also, most living things contain a higher percentage of water than other components they are made of. So, what happens if all the water on the Earth suddenly disappeared?
So what would happen if all the water on Earth disappeared? Firstly, any boats that happen to be in any lake or ocean are going to drop thousands and thousands of feet due to the fact that there's no more water, and these giant lakes and oceans have now turned into massive craters. On top of that, all sea life will die that relies on water only. Second thing is there will be no more clouds because it will never rain again. Thirdly, we won't be able to wash our hands, being so that all of the bacteria that we wash off of our hands normally when we wash our hands with soap will be stuck to our hands, meaning that we'll become sick a lot easier. There'll also be no water for us to drink, so we're pretty much screwed. Like and follow for more videos.
They tell us never to pick things we see on the floor for any reason. This is practically what every child hears when he starts to grow up. Well, if you ever want to make this warning stick in a child's ears, you should tell them this sad story.
You have to be careful picking up stuff off the ground. So in the early 1960s, a family of 4 moved into a house in Mexico City. And one day the 10-year-old son is playing out in the yard when he sees something small and shiny on the ground. He doesn't really think anything of it, he just picks it up and puts it in his left pant pocket. But then over the next couple days, the boy starts getting sicker and sicker, and the skin on his left side near his pocket is starting to burn. His mom finds a capsule on him and ends up putting it in a kitchen cabinet with a bunch of other glasses. But over time, the glasses start all turning black. Not only that, but the fingernails of everyone in the family also start turning black. The boy and his family start getting sicker and sicker until one by one, most of the family dies. And this all started happening when the capsule came into the house. So what was the thing the boy found on the ground? It was a stray capsule of cobalt-60, which is incredibly radioactive, similar to what fell off a truck in Australia in January. If you want to hear more terrifying stories of radiation, you can check them out on the podcast this week.
How far can you go to conceal the truth? This is a story of a man who went too far as killing his entire family so they wouldn't learn the truth about him. But what secrets was he hiding, and for how long?
John Claude Roman, a model student at his college for 12 years, had just become a doctor. He knew so much about the world market, his family and friends all gave him money to invest in the Swiss market as he was predicted to grow. He went on to get a job at the prestigious World Health Organization. He loved his family and his friends and was a star among them. Until one of those family friends looked on the World Health Organization roster and he was nowhere to be found. He brought it up to Jean, and in a panic, he killed his wife with a rolling pin. After he was done, he turned around and shot both his kids dead. That very same day, he went on a 50-mile drive to kill his parents and their dog. Once he returned back home, he swallowed countless pills and set the house ablaze. Somehow he lived and was forced to tell the story. He never graduated college or became a doctor, never got a well-paying job, and was living off his friends' and family's money he was supposed to be investing. And to prevent his loved ones from knowing the truth, he killed them all. Worst part is, he was let out of prison in 2015.
Do you find human-looking robots creepy? Well, it's not just you, and there is in fact a phenomenon for it.
The uncanny valley. This idea was first introduced in the 1970s by Masaru Amori. It was used to describe the feeling that as robots become more human-like, the more appealing and likable they become, but only up to a certain point. One recent and widespread look into the uncanny valley was a Sonic trailer before the 3D model was changed. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it has too many human-like characteristics without being a human, telling the brain something is wrong. As robots advance, they come to look so similar to humans, but fall short of being exact replications, creepily falling down into the uncanny valley. What do you think? Do these pictures give you an uneasy feeling? As of right now, technology is right here, but within the next 10 or so years, should be here. And human-like robots should be less creepy.
There are so many pictures out there on the internet that are so creepy, they might have you puking. These are just some of those pictures. Get ready for a peek into morbid reality.
Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Morbid reality, a subreddit devoted to the most disturbing content the internet has to offer. Woman thought to be Edna Centron, waving her hand for help on the impact zone of one of the planes that hit the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. One of the scariest photos ever captured, in my opinion. That's crazy. It's crazy that that's a real person. The smallpox epidemic from the 1500s. That man really looks dead. This was our Philadelphia location's first decom job. The deceased passed away from natural causes, and his home was set to 90 degrees due to the cold temperature outside. After a week, the neighbors called for help due to the smell. So pretty much this is a dead guy stain. That's disgusting. Untitled picture by Adolf Hitler, depicting a series of doors descending into an abyss, with the stairs of eyeless men at the front. Oh, that's literally a dead guy. You really watched the whole minute of this. You're dark, man. You're dark.
Some knowledge is not meant to be revealed. What would you say about an organization created to fake things as crucial as a zombie virus, alien invasion, and even rapture?
Have you heard of Project Bluebeam? Okay, so Project Bluebeam is a well thought out conspiracy that suggests the secret government is planning a new age religion through technology and organizations like NASA. They will attempt to fake the second coming of Christ to create a one-world government. The theory suggests that the project would involve a virus outbreak, a staged alien invasion and an artificial rapture, and a global-scale holographic projection of religious figures like Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad. Sounds a little too familiar, doesn't it? We just had a virus and UFO balloons are being shot down right now. So, did Project Bluebeam start and what's coming next?
Ever hear about the story of the glass of water? This is a creepy story of two brothers and a glass of water.
This is the scary story about the glass of water. There were two brothers who lived in a small apartment. They lived with their parents on the outskirts of the city. There wasn't a lot of space, so the brothers shared a room. One night, their parents went to go visit relatives who lived in the country, and the one brother stayed out late with his friends. And when he got home, it was already past midnight. He didn't want to wake up his brother who was sleeping, so he didn't turn on the light, and he undressed super quietly. As he got into bed, he heard his brother moan and asked for a glass of water. He then went to the kitchen and grabbed his brother a glass of water and came back. He then gave it to him, said goodnight, and climbed into bed. At 6 a.m., the brother was woken up by knocking at the door. He then got out of bed and opened the door. And there stood his brother. He then asked, "Where were you?" His brother then said he spent the night at his girlfriend's house. He then freaked out and ran back to his room and saw his brother's bed empty with an empty glass of water.
So many people can attest to the fact that voodoo magic is real and exists, but not many can say they have witnessed it firsthand, and this is a story of someone who has.
This is a true horrifying story of the witch in Jeddah. This story was submitted by Iffet, a Saudi Arabian girl that narrated her aunt's story. The aunt's name is Noura. Noura was in her 20s when she recently got married back in 2003. She had a newborn baby at the time, so she needed help in the house. She hired a nanny from Indonesia that was previously fired from another house in Riyadh. This all started from day one. This Indonesian nanny would help Noura around the house with carrying furniture. She was very petite, but she had the power to lift heavy objects like it was paper. She would also cook food on such a fast pace, it was just not ordinary. And she would spend 4 to 5 hours daily in the guest toilet downstairs. Noura had no idea what was going on. One night, Noura was awakened by loud noises coming from one of the bedrooms late at night. She walked towards the room and had a peek, and she saw something that was terrifying. It was the nanny in the dark, wearing a white mask on her face, chanting gibberish. She saw Noura and she immediately jumped in her bed. The next day, they sent her out to buy some groceries. And while she was out, Noura goes inside her bedroom and inspects her belongings, as she was very suspicious. She found bags of strange leaves. She found reptile skin, fingernails, bags of hair strands, pictures of the Saudi Arabian family she worked for, with holes punched through the faces, and a voodoo doll. Noura and her husband contacted the authorities, and they had to act like they didn't see anything. They wanted her paperwork to be prepared for her to leave the country, because if she found out that they know, she will harm them. They eventually tricked her and had her put on a plane with her ritual belongings left in the house. Days later, Noura finds out that this woman also attempted to harm them. She slowly started finding pieces of black magic rituals buried inside and around the house. In the following weeks, they had a sheikh come over and cleanse the house. But what do you think would have happened if she wasn't caught?
Remember our purple dinosaur friend Barney? He was one of the most loved children's characters way back in the beginning of the century. But what if we told you there is an episode no one ever remembers that Barney talks about death?
This is the disturbing lost episode of Barney. When this episode began, it skipped straight past the intro and went straight into Barney's theme song. But during the theme song, you could hear a very light and strange whisper. After that, it started to seem pretty normal, with the kids gathered around holding the Barney doll that eventually comes to life, and then Barney starts talking to the kids. And when that happens, something strange happened along with it. As soon as Barney started talking, it sounded like two people were talking at once. It sounded like Barney's normal voice along with a demonic possessed voice. Barney then asked the kids, "Hey kids, do you want to learn about death?" The kids, knowing nothing about what death is, said, "Yeah, Barney, what is death?" Barney then replied to the kids by saying, "I'll show you." Barney then became angry and started growing large, sharp teeth out of his mouth and ended up biting a child's head off. Barney then chased all of the other kids down until he could eat all of them as well. The episode then ended by Barney saying, "Remember kids, you can hide on your bed, but you won't make it far."
There are some serial killers who have never been caught despite their wicked crimes and a wealth of evidence around them. This is the story of one of them, the Doodler.
Yo, what's up? These are serial killers that were never caught, part 2. The Doodler. From January of 1974 to September of 1975, the gay community was heavily targeted by a serial killer who took the lives of 14 victims and injured 3 others. And that man was none other than the Doodler. Now, as you can tell from his nickname, the Doodler, he had something to do with drawing, and where that came from was he would draw his male victims that he was about to have sex with, and after he had sex with them, he would stab them to death and kill them. In fact, he would even wait outside of gay clubs until somebody walked out, and he would convince them to come home with him, and that's where he would commit the acts. And even though there were 3 survivors, none of them said a word about the man because they were afraid of being outed by their community because they were, in fact, homosexual. So basically what I'm saying is watch your back, because this man could still be wandering around on your street.
Which of these looks into creepy knowledge did you find entertaining? Let us know in the comments section.